Hi, my name is Tiffany, and I'm going to show you what I eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner as a Chinese vegan.
Hi, my name is Brittany, and I'm going to show you what I eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner as an Italian vegan.
Hi, my name is Venetia. I'm going to show you what I eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner as a Greek vegan.
For breakfast, I made tomato bean curd over toast. This meal is inspired by the classic Chinese dish, tomato egg. We're replacing the eggs with bean curd or tofu skin, which replicates the texture of eggs really well. Add some turmeric water, nutritional yeast, black pepper, and some black salt for that extra eggy flavor. Sauté until the bean curd absorbs most of the water and then transfer it onto a plate for later. Next, add a little more oil to the pan and add some chopped tomatoes. You're going to want to cook this down until the juices from the tomatoes start to seep out. And then add some ketchup, some sugar, and mix until combined. Add the bean curd back in and stir in some cornstarch slurry to thicken. It's super simple to make and it's such a good go-to comfort food and ultimate pick-me-up. I probably make it once or twice a week now. It's normally served over rice, but I had mine over toast to make it more breakfast-like. I remember I'd always order this at Chinese takeout places when I was younger, and it wasn't until recently that I rediscovered this dish and learned how to veganize it. You can't not feel intense joy while eating this. It's sweet and savory and comforting and just filled with all-around goodness.
For breakfast, I made a vegan version of Nutella. I started off by combining dry roasted and skinned hazelnuts with some pitted majol dates in a food processor and blended those two together until the hazelnuts were roughly chopped. Next, I added some raw cacao powder to the date and hazelnut mixture and continued blending in the food processor until that became smooth. If the mixture appears to be dry, you can always add a little bit of water and then continue blending. You can also choose to soak your dates and prep for this recipe, as it will make them a bit softer and easier to blend, especially if they're on the drier side. Once I finish blending up this goodness, I immediately spread it on a piece of toast and enjoy it with a side of fresh fruit. Nutella was definitely a staple for breakfast growing up, so this felt like a trip down memory lane, and I was pleasantly surprised at how simple and delicious this vegan Nutella was, but also how easy it was to incorporate whole food ingredients.
For breakfast, I made Kerasi, which is like a cherry preserves, and put it on top of yogurt. Here I'm just emptying some regular forager vegan yogurt and trying to Greekify it by thickening it up. You can put paper towels on top, put it in the fridge overnight, that thickens it. I'm gonna start the Kerasi process. I put some cherry, sugar, water, lemon juice, bring that to a rapid boil. You'll see it kind of boil up here now. A perfectionist would skim the foam off the top here. I've never had anything in my life and thought, wow, they really didn't skim the foam off this. So I'm not going to do that. I'm testing to make sure that the sauce is thick enough here. You can go ahead and plate it. Yummy, some cinnamon, some walnuts. Delicious. Eating yogurt on camera, very awkward, but very delicious.
For lunch, I made veggie chow mein or stir-fry noodles. In a small bowl, add some dark soy sauce, regular soy sauce, maple syrup, and sesame oil. Whisk it and set it aside for later. Next, you're going to heat up some oil in a pan and add in some onions and garlic. When it's cooked down a bit, add some shiitake mushrooms and saute it until slightly brown. Add some carrots and continue to saute and add some bok choy. This dish is super forgiving, so you can really use any variety of veggies you have on hand and it'll still turn out super tasty. Once everything is fully cooked, I added in some chow mein noodles, the sauce mixture, and stirred it all together until fully combined. Since this is a pretty simple dish, I love going in on my toppings. I added some bean sprouts, green onions, crushed peanuts, and of course, chili oil for that kick. Such a versatile, delicious, classic Chinese dish that I always love coming back to.
For lunch, I made Macco de Fave, made with dry fava beans and wild fennel. I started off by combining my dried fava beans with water in a large stock pot, along with a whole peeled onion, some carrots, celery stalks, and some fennel fronds. I brought that to a boil over medium-high heat and gave it a good stir, then covered the pot, reduced the heat, and let it simmer for a few hours or until the beans were tender. Next, I removed the onion, celery stalks, and added in some freshly chopped and sauteed garlic. I then used an immersion blender to puree the fava beans, carrots, fennel fronds, and garlic until it became smooth and creamy. I chose not to remove the carrots as I find they tend to add a nice flavor and some subtle sweetness. I enjoy this lightly topped with some fennel fronds and served alongside a crispy piece of bread.
For lunch, I made Gigantes, which is a baked bean dish. Put in some canned butter beans, some fresh tomatoes, red onion, dill, pepper, salt. Give it a good mix. I love looking at all the colors here. It's so pretty. Put in some canned tomato sauce that helps bring it all together, water, garlic, olive oil, and a bay leaf, and some tomato paste for good measure. Give it another mix. I love that this dish is already vegan in its original form. Pop it in the oven for an hour and voila! Vegan tzatziki is very easy to make. Give it a try and sop it all up with some crusty bread. Delicious.
For dinner, I made orange glazed tofu and mushrooms over rice. To start, you're going to break apart a block of firm tofu. I highly recommend freezing and thawing your tofu to get a meatier texture. I'm using Veggie here, but if you can get your hands on it, I highly recommend lion's mane in this recipe as it replicates the fatty part of meat super well. Add in some cornstarch and 5 spice powder and mix it together until fully coated. Here we're going to shallow fry this, so heat up some oil in a pan and make sure that it's hot before adding the tofu and mushrooms. If you're not super keen on frying, you can definitely bake this in the oven or air fryer. Let each side crisp up before turning. Drain out any excess oil and then add in some garlic. For the sauce, we're going to combine the juice of an orange, maple syrup, soy sauce, and rice vinegar. Pour over the tofu and mushrooms. Cook down the sauce until it gets nice and thick and glossy, and then you're gonna add in some sesame seeds and serve it over rice. I feel like what makes or breaks the dish is the textures and flavors. By taking plant-based alternatives and preparing them in the exact same way, you're really able to achieve that same burst of flavor while choosing something better for your body, the environment, and the animals.
For dinner, I made pasta alla Norma. I started off by sauteing some freshly chopped garlic and oregano in a large stock pot with some vegetable broth, making sure to stir frequently. I like to saute in vegetable broth as I find it tends to add flavor while also packing some nutrients. I added in my chopped eggplant and stirred to combine, then continued sauteing the eggplant until it softened and browned. Next, I added in my chopped tomatoes and stirred to combine with my chopped eggplant. I typically used fresh Roma tomatoes. To spice it up a bit, I added some salt, pepper, and hot chili flakes, gave it another good stir, and let it saute some more. Lastly, I added my cooked pasta and stirred to combine with my chopped eggplant, tomatoes, and other delicious ingredients. I enjoy this topped with fresh basil leaves and dry roasted pine nuts. My Nona and her family also ate this dish often, and others like it.
For dinner, I made Spanakopita. We're gonna start with the vegan ricotta. Put in some pressed extra firm tofu, vegan cream cheese, lemon juice, salt, pepper, give it a good mix. Then we're gonna start on the filling. You can thaw some frozen spinach and put in 2 blocks of vegan feta cheese. Don't skimp on the feta, it's the best part. Put in your vegan ricotta, some sauteed leek, green onions, dill, celery leaves, mint, Italian parsley, some olive oil, and give it a good mix. Salt, pepper. Yeah, go ahead and mix it with your hands. It's messy, but that's the only way to do it. Here, I'm kind of preparing my vegan eggs just to kind of combine everything together. You can use the Follow Your Heart brand. I like that one, but really probably any brand is fine. Give it another mix and set it aside. We're gonna start on the phyllo. Don't be intimidated. You're gonna go ahead and butter the base and then put in your first layer of phyllo. And you just kind of keep repeating this until you've used up half the package. Go ahead and put in your filling and just kind of smooth it over to make sure it's all even and you don't have any lumps. Now put in the other half of the phyllo container and go ahead and butter each layer again. Now you can kind of go ahead and fold in the edges, give it another little layer of butter on top. You can put it in the oven for about an hour until it's golden brown, just be checking it. We would have Spanakopita at every family holiday. Spanakopita, delicious.